Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of The Package Tourist, hosted by yours truly, the Package Tourist and the magical mystery tour called Life, Matthew DiBiase. Tonight's guest is author Michelle Petties. Michelle resides in the Baltimore-Washington, D.C. area. When she is not writing books, Michelle has worked in public radio since 2010. In 2021, Michelle published her first book, Leaving Large, The Stories of a Food Addict, which chronicles her 42-year struggle with obesity and the ill health caused by that obesity. Tonight we will be paying tribute to her writing career. Michelle, welcome to the show. It's a great honor and privilege to have you here.
Oh, Matthew, thank you. I'm delighted to be here. I just appreciate the opportunity to have a conversation with you.
Thank you. That means a great deal to me. Michelle, I'd like to start off by asking you, what led you to write about your personal struggles with obesity?
My doctor.
Really?
Yes, my doctor. So what happened, I'll try to make the story as short as possible. But as I started to figure out how to get a handle on this thing, I went to a doctor. I went to a doctor and followed a weight loss program. And over the course of the time, my doctor was just so impressed and happy with the progress that I was making. And she would say every time I would go into the office, she said you should write a cookbook. Because when I would come in, I would tell her about the different things that I was eating, but I always had a story. And she said, but if you do a cookbook, you should include your stories. You have to include your stories because that's the thing that made the difference for you. And I wasn't interested in it at all. Matthew, I wasn't having it at all. So I said, nope, not interested in writing a book. Just give me my shots and let me go on my way. And every time I would go in, she would talk to me about this cookbook, and every time I would say no. So finally, when COVID hit, by the time COVID hit, and I talk a little bit about this in my TED Talk, I needed to do something, because even though I felt like I had made the leap, that I had figured it out, that I wasn't going to go back, the atmosphere was so stressed. And I just heard people all the time saying, oh, I'm gaining weight. All I'm doing is eating and watching TV. What are we going to do? It was just like all this going on. And I started thinking, I need to do something to protect myself. So I started to write. And I tried to write this cookbook with the stories, right? And I also tried, Matthew, I tried to add a diary onto it as well, because I had heard that if you're going to write, you need to write from a place of authenticity. So I wanted to write this diary, cookbook thing, storybook, and not a word would come. That was total block. So I went to where we all go. I went to YouTube. I Googled YouTube, how to write a book. And the first thing they said was, pick a lane, pick a thing. And I was like, oh, that's my problem. I was trying to do too much. I was trying to write a cookbook, diary thing. And so I started thinking, all right, cookbook. Well, there are I don't know, millions of people that have written books that are chefs and nutritionists, right? They've written cookbooks. I'm like, why would somebody care about a cookbook written by me? They wouldn't. So I nixed that idea.
Okay.
Then I looked at that diary thing I was writing, and that bored me. And I'm like, nobody going to care about this. And the thing that was left was the stories. And when I started to focus on the stories, my own personal stories, they just flowed. And that's how I ended up writing the book. Probably more than you wanted to know, but that's the whole story.
That's beautiful. It's fantastic. Question: so, how long did it take you to write Leaving Large? I mean, how long was the process, the writing process?
The process. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Because the stories themselves are happened as a culmination of living for 60 years and struggling with this thing. So oftentimes when people ask me that question, I'm like, it took me 60 years to write it because that's how long I lived it before I figured it out. But the process, started. It started with COVID. It started the beginning of 2020.
Yeah.
And I published it in November 2021.
Okay.
So it was 2 years.
Okay.
It was 2 years, and I'll tell you, I published it. It came out a year after I thought it was going to come out.
Okay.
A year after I wanted it to come out. Just let me say this, because as I started writing, I didn't necessarily know that it was going to be a book. When I first started writing, I was just really just writing, and I would share the stories with people, and people would say that they were good. And I took a writing class or a class like Find an Agent, how to find an agent. No, it was Is Your Work Agent Ready or something like that. It was some sort of course like that.
Yeah.
And the woman that was teaching the class was like, you need to find an agent. You need to find an agent right now.
Yeah.
Is what she said. And it shocked me that she thought it was that good. So I started doing that. And within the first week, like the first week of sending out query letters, I got a response from a major publisher, from William Morris.
Wow.
And they responded, and then I responded, and then things fell apart.
Ouch.
As I learned that they sometimes do in this writing world.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like looking at, okay, now what do I do? And she says, just keep pushing it out there. Keep trying to find an agent. Just keep. That stuff happens. But during the course, and I ultimately published my book myself. I started a publishing company and published my own book. But what happened in the course of me sending out these queries was a reader found some of the stories, what I call food stories, that I published on another platform. This reader found me through social media and thanked me for the stories. And she thanked me for the stories, and she was asking for more stories, and she was saying that she saw herself in my words.
Wow.
And when I read that, I knew I had to publish my book myself.
Okay.
Because I feel like I could find an agent, but how long would that take, right? Yeah. And then once I found the agent was going to have to find a publisher. How long is that going to take? Mm-hmm. And this was somebody saying, I'm ready now.
Yep.
I'm ready now. Okay. And so I ended up publishing myself.
Michelle, obesity has been a national problem for decades now. What is your personal assessment of America's fight to combat obesity? In your opinion, are we winning or losing the struggle?
Oh, God. Let me say this. I am hopeful. I am hopeful in spite of everything that I see. And I also want to say that, obesity is a complex disease. Right? And I want to say that it is a disease. I want anybody that's listening to be clear that when you see somebody that is obviously struggling with their weight, right? When you can see it because of the way it shows up on their body. That is not the time for the time for compassion, because oftentimes what you're seeing is somebody that has things in their life that they're struggling with, that they think food is the answer or food is the only way for them to cope with it.
Okay.
And they don't often understand it. So it is not a question of willpower. It is not a question of self-control. It is not a question of self-discipline. Just let me get that out of the way. Because what has happened is that the way we eat has been hijacked. The way we eat has been hijacked by the processed food companies, the snack food companies, and the junk food companies.
Yeah.
And we have been taught as a culture to eat for reasons other than hunger, to eat for pleasure, to eat because something tastes good, because it smells good, because it looks good, not because it is good for us. And that is a major problem, because we've eaten in this unhealthy way for so long. We don't even know what eating in a healthy way looks like. We have been unhealthy for so long. We don't know what healthy feels like. Okay. We've normalized this.
Okay. Yeah.
Eating junk, and it's not our. Here's the other thing: it's not our fault. It's not our fault, because when you think about it, the majority of information that people get about what to eat, when to eat, where to eat, why to eat, and how to eat comes from the people that are making the stuff, the people that are trying to sell more of it at a higher price and more often.
Yeah.
So the information that we get is faulty about what food is. So that's the first thing. Most people don't even understand what real food is.
Okay.
And so they're eating all this processed food, snack food, junk food, because it's pushed on us, it's promoted as real food. It's not. Our bodies read it as drugs. Our bodies don't even read it as real food. And not only that, the stuff is formulated, Matthew, to be addictive. These companies have neuroscientists and neuromarketers that work at them that know more about our brains and what we eat and why we eat than we do. And so we're fighting this adversary for our lives without even realizing it. Okay. So we eat this stuff, and they tell us, oh, you think about it. What's the potato chip? I bet you can't eat just one. They tell you in advance, we're going to give you something that you're not going to be able to stop eating.
Yeah, yeah.
And you hear it over and over and over again, and we're marketed to over and over and over again, and our brains have been hijacked, and our bodies have been hijacked too.
Okay.
Yeah.
When combating of obesity, you talk about junk foods. Are there certain junk foods that help enhance eating addictions? If so, what foods should be avoided in order to combat obesity?
Yeah.
What are the guilty foods that really actually enhance the addiction?
Sure. Processed food, snack food, junk food.
Okay.
And I know that's a broad category, but I'll start with this. I'll start with sugar.
Yeah.
I'll start with sugar, because sugar is in most everything.
Yeah.
And if you look at the research, there's research that tells you that sugar lights up the same neural pathways in the brain as cocaine. It is more addictive than cocaine, yet it is in everything.
Yeah.
So let's just start with not eating the stuff. Read the label. Not eating the stuff that has sugar in it.
Okay.
But we have to be careful, because there are so many different names for sugar. Yeah. And they change the name and make it sound benign, but it's not. But it's still the same.
Yeah.
So you'll see, pure cane sugar. Well, didn't all of it come from cane?
Yep. Okay. Yeah. A rose by any other name, but it's still the same. A poison by any other name, but it's still poison. Yeah.
It is still poison.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's marketed to us as a treat.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's poison. It breaks. It breaks down every system in the body.
Yeah. Okay. Now you were talking about eating as a camouflage for other problems. Okay. Now you mentioned earlier. Is it accurate to say eating addictions can be a camouflage for deeper personal and emotional problems? And if so, can you elaborate, like what you mentioned earlier, Michelle? Can you elaborate on that?
So I wouldn't say it's a camouflage, right? So and I wouldn't always say that it's for deeper emotional problems. I would say that it it can be for sure, but it can be for anything, because food in this culture is pushed up on us to be at the center of anything, to be the solution for everything, and yet it is a solution to only one problem, and that's just hunger. But we've eaten, as I said earlier, so often when we're not hungry that we don't even know what real hunger feels like. And I'll give you what I mean. I'll give you an example of what I mean by it doesn't even necessarily have to be some sort of deep emotional problem. It can just be how we live in this world. I went out to a client lunch a couple years back, and this example is just popping in my head. There's so many of them. I have to figure out which one I'm going to go to. I went out to a client lunch a few years back, and we were at a Mexican restaurant. And if anybody knows me, everybody knows Mexican food is my favorite food. And it was in the middle of the afternoon, and there were about 6 or 7 of us at the table, and we were there to discuss this particular issue. And when the server came and gave, we all had menus. He was taking everybody's order, and one guy said, "Oh, I'm not ordering anything. I'm not ordering anything. I'm going home and I'm having dinner with my family. My wife is a great cook." And he didn't order anything. He had something to drink. Maybe he ate a chip, just because just because the basket was in front of him, and other people ordered. And I'm giving this example because so many times when I'm coaching people, they'll talk about eating, it being hard for them to stick to healthy eating habits when they're around other people because it's what everybody else is doing. So if you're in a situation where you're around other people all the time for whatever reason, and food is at the center of things all the time, and you can't listen to your own body, and you feel like because people around you are eating, that you have to eat too. You haven't given yourself permission to listen to your own body, or just to say, "Oh, I'm not," to feel it, to know it. He might have been hungry, but he just made a decision in that moment that it was better for him, and what he wanted to do was to have a meal later on with his family than with us.
Okay.
But those things happen all the time. Those situations happen all the time, that food is at the center, and we don't make a conscious decision whether I'm hungry or whether I'm not hungry. You think about if you go to, I live in Maryland. I live in Maryland, not too far from the Eastern Shore, and I'm down on the boardwalk, right?
Yeah.
And I see people, walking up and down the boardwalk with all the boardwalk food that they sell, and none of it is really food.
Yeah.
And I see people just walking and eating all this stuff that is nowhere near nutritious.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily because there's some sort of traumatic event that they're dealing with. It's just that they think of food as entertainment.
Yeah.
They think of it as an activity, and it's there, and they've got it in their mind that it's part of the experience.
Yeah.
Not that they're eating because they're even hungry, or that what they're eating is nutritious at all.
Okay. Michelle, what spiritual, eating, and physical disciplines do you personally use to combat your addictions and maintain a healthy sense of self?
So,
what are your personal disciplines?
Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to. I want to set the stage a little bit for you, if you don't mind.
Go. Okay. Go.
When I had my final, what I call my final rock bottom moment, I was at a conference where I ate way too much pizza in way too short a period of time, and I was like, I can't do this alone anymore. right? I've got to try this again. And so I left this conference and I went straight to my doctor's office. Thankfully, she didn't have any clients at the time, any patients at the time, and she was like, what's going on? And I had been going to her for a while. She was a holistic doctor, and she had been telling me, I have a plan that can help you with this. And I was like, oh, no, I can do it myself. And I wasn't able to do it myself. And that kind of Pizzagate moment was really eye-opening for me. Mm. And so she said, here, follow this plan, take this medication, and you will not be hungry. Follow this plan, you will not be hungry. Okay, got it. And I knew that she was right because Matthew, I had been doing that for 40 years. I could follow a plan. I could lose the weight. So this was a start for me. But the one thing I did in the office that at that time that I had not done, that I hadn't done in the 40 years of trying, in the 40 years of the losing weight and gaining it back, was I had not prayed. And when she gave this protocol for the time, I just took it and I closed my eyes and I just said, God, help me understand what I am missing, because there's something that I am missing about me in food. Something is, so I have got to get off this hamster wheel. Help me understand it. And that was my prayer. That was the first time. I prayed about a lot of things in my life, but that was the first time I had ever prayed about what I didn't even know at the time was food addiction. Mm. And that's the difference. That's one of the differences. I thought I just didn't know how to handle my weight. I didn't know that the food was toxic. I didn't know that the stuff that I was eating, that I was an addict. I didn't know that. And that's one of the reasons so many people have problems, is that the way that you deal with, I've gained weight, I've lost a few little pounds. The way that you deal with that in addiction is completely different. So for years, I had been trying to solve something that really wasn't the problem. The weight loss wasn't my issue. Addiction was my issue. Mm. So, and that is the case for so many people, is that they're using the wrong tools. So I'm saying all this to get to to answer your question about what principles, what practices do I follow.
Okay.
Most of the people, and everybody, let me say this, everybody's an emotional eater. Everybody eats emotionally, even though there are some people that say I'm an emotional eater. And we are all emotional eaters, because eating is an action, eating is a behavior, and before every action, before every behavior, there is an emotion. There's an emotion, there's a thought, there's a belief that's tied to it that drives it. But for some, there are these disempowering emotions around food and situations involving food that send them down a dark path. So this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about being an emotional eater.
Okay.
So the issue is, if people come and say, my problem is I'm an emotional eater. I eat when I'm stressed. I eat when I'm anxious. I eat when I'm disappointed. I eat when I'm sad. I eat when I'm happy. I eat when I'm lonely. I eat when I'm bored. Right? People, that's legitimate issues, legitimate problems. I'm an emotional eater. I go to food when I'm feeling these kinds of ways.
Yeah. Okay.
So here's the problem, is that food can't solve any of those things. The only problem that food solves is hunger. And so people are eating because they're feeling sad, because they're grieving, because they're lonely, because they're bored, because they're stressed, because they have anxiety, because they're disappointment, because something sends them in some direction to use food as comfort. They're eating for those reasons.
Yeah.
For those reasons, to satisfy those emotional reasons. But the solutions that they are given are this. Oh, take this medication, have this surgery, get gastric bypass, get a lap band, get a plan, follow Mediterranean, follow Atkins, follow keto, do this behavior. Those things do not solve emotional issues. Those things address behavior, not belief. Mm. So the real problems are not being addressed, because the way to address it is teach people how to manage emotions, teach people how to recognize emotions, navigate emotions, honor emotions. So if you eat when you're stressed, your eating is not the issue. Your stress is the issue. What can you do when you're stressed other than eat? How can you recognize what stress is?
Okay.
Right? So deal with the stress, and the desire to eat will go away if you're an emotional eater.
Okay.
Oh, I eat when I'm bored. Okay. What does that look like for you? What does boredom look like? Why are you bored? What things do you enjoy? Why do you feel like eating is the answer to boredom? Let's unpack that. Let's look at that. So when we start looking at the things that are sending people to these dark emotional places where they feel helpless, where they feel like they don't have any solutions or answers, help people with that. But we aren't a society or a culture that teaches people how to sit with the discomfort of those feelings, how to be alone with those feelings, how to navigate those feelings, how to honor them, to use to look at our emotions as tools, as information. And when we learn that skill, and that is a spiritual practice,
okay,
to learn to be with yourself. Okay. Right, to navigate that. And so to answer your question, I use a process that I call VAMP: visualization, affirmation, meditation, and prescriptive writing. Those things are what I teach. Those things are what I show people how to do in my coaching program. Those are the same tools that I use for myself to stay clear and navigate every day. Visualization, affirmation, meditation for sure, prescriptive writing, because the reality is this, Matthew. Before anybody ever gains an extra ounce, extra pound, or extra anything on their body, we gain it in our heads first. We gain it in our thoughts. We gain it in our beliefs. And the only way for us to lose it is through the same portal through which we gained it. And we do that by examining, by looking at it, by writing, by discussing, by sharing that information, getting it out of our heads, getting it onto the paper. And when it's out of our heads and onto the paper, weight can't wrap around it.
Okay.
We can solve it. We can talk about it.
Okay. Michelle, let's talk about yourself now. Where were you born and raised? I call myself Southernish. I call myself Southernish because I grew up in Texas, but I was born in California. So born in California, grew up in Texas, but I claim Marshall, Texas as my home. That's where I was raised. A little farming, southern obviously, country town in East Texas, about 21,000 people. More people work at the Pentagon than in my hometown. Okay. Where did you go to school? Where did you go to college?
I went to college in Texas, University of Texas at Arlington, which is Arlington, if you know, is a city much bigger now than it was in the 1970s, right between Dallas and Fort Worth.
Yeah. I mean, Texas Rangers are there. The Cowboys have their stadium there. Yeah. Basically, it's a greater Dallas suburb, you could call it, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. What was your major, if you don't mind me asking?
Of course. I majored in radio and television. In the broader term was communication, speech, the School of Communication, speech, then discipline of radio and television.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Michelle, whenever I interview an author on my show, I always love to ask the standard question. When you were growing up, who were your favorite authors? And of those favorite authors, did any of them light the spark inside you to become a writer or perhaps influence your writing style?
Yeah, that question is such a good question. It's such an important question. When growing up, I would tell you my favorite author when I was growing up was Alex Haley.
Ooh.
I came of age during Roots.
Yeah.
And and the autobiography of Malcolm X.
Yes.
And so I was all over Alex Haley. But at the time I was reading those, it never ever occurred to me that I would become a writer. I discovered writing. I discovered that I was a writer later in life, and it's interesting that you asked that question because I am a writer, and this desire to write has been buried deep in me for years, and I never knew it. I never knew it.
Okay, yeah. You're born with it, in many ways. It's same with me. I'm a writer too, when I'm not podcasting, but I'm a sports writer.
Okay.
I'm a sports author though, yeah.
Okay.
Michelle, please tell our audience, where can readers find your book, Michelle?
Yes. So my book is everywhere. Well, you can get the book from me directly if you go to leavinglarge.com. It's not living large, but leavinglarge.com. You order it directly from me. I will sign it.
Okay.
I will sign it and send it to you. But if you don't care about that, you can just go. You can get it on Amazon. Just go to Amazon. Go to any Barnes and Noble, any bookseller, and you can get it there. But leavinglarge.com.
Michelle, do you have a future book project on the table? And if so, when can we expect its release?
Yes. So the project that I'm working on now is Surviving Soul Food: The Systemic Assault on Black Women's Health from Slavery Until Today. When will it be released? I'll let you know.
Well, let me know, and I'll have you on the show again. Okay.
I'm in the early stages of it, and it is not just my story. It is the stories of other women that are going to be in this book, and we're taking it to a deeper level, because I will tell you, when I started writing this book, I had no idea that it would take me down the path that has taken me. Earlier this year, I spoke at the World Obesity Congress in front of doctors and researchers and scientists about this disease from a lived experience. I've spoken at NIH, at NIDA, Institute of Drug Addiction, about this issue, and it has opened doors and just sent me down. I'm just happy to do this work, and I want to speak because I don't want anybody else to have to struggle with this disease like I did for as long as I did. So that's why I'm always talking. That's why I'm grateful for you for having me on your show for this conversation. Just to be able to let anybody struggling know that it's possible, that you can beat it. You do not have to struggle, and it is not your fault. It is not your fault.
Michelle, I want to thank you so much for appearing on the show, and I wish you the best of luck on your future projects. And keep me informed. I'd love to have you on my show again, okay?
Thank you so much, Matthew. I appreciate you.
May God bless and keep you always, and may you have a wonderful Christmas.
You too.
Thank you. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen, for next week's show, where I'll be interviewing football author Terrence Troop. Thank you, good night, and Merry Christmas.